Hey everybody, I'm John Self. Welcome to Your Career Questions. It's Friday, thank gosh. Is anybody ready for this week to be over? I think I wrote five or six questions or five or six scripts this week, and about five newsletter entries or posts. So I am ready for the weekend to come. I'm ready for some good gin martinis or vodka martinis tonight. But first, I got to go spend a boatload of money on medication. So there you go. God, we have, if nothing else, and I was in the industry for 42 years, we may not have the best health system, but by God, nobody's even close to us having the most expensive health system. Let me explain what we're doing today. We are answering your questions. And, just so you'll know who I am, I've been around for a little while, a couple of minutes anyway. I spent 3 or 4 years in the news business as a crime writer and investigative journalist in Houston. I was the first director of Lifeline at Herman Hospital, which is incidentally where I was born. That's kind of a neat thing to be able to have your first career, second career job in a place where you were born, and then became the first director of Lifeline, their incredible Lifeline air ambulance program, which has just grown so far out of anything we had in terms of vision. I did that in the mid 70s, and then the aircraft company asked me to join them, and I flew all over the country and Gosh, I recognized a hospital maybe 3 or 4 times out of 5 in those days, and knew less about helicopters. And as one of my friends said, you had long hair, you had kind of a Mod Squad looking suit on, and you were flying first class. What the hell could possibly go wrong? Well, the truth is, I learned an important lesson from that event, and that was that although I didn't have all the, that if you were launching a major program, you might not have hired me, but I was a subject matter expert. And so I got to slip through the door. I was not a trained salesman, but I believed in the product. I believed in the service. I saw how many lives it saved. And I had an incredible passion and enthusiasm. And later in life, I learned that that enthusiasm can really make or break whether you get the job or whether you close the deal or whether you get that promotion. So don't discount the soft skills of enthusiasm, because I think it's a little bit infectious. Okay, let's get started with our questions today. Yeah, in many ways, and just as a side, let me finish that thought from earlier. It's Friday. I'm tired. I'm relying on a cup of hot English tea to try to keep my batteries charged up. But I also did global executive recruiting. I worked in 6 countries on 4 continents, and I probably interviewed more than 9,000 people in my career, both as a news reporter and in my travels around the world as a recruiter. It's been, a great life, and I wouldn't change one thing. I mean, you go back and you might have regrets, but in terms of the major the course of travel of my career, I've been very blessed, and I hope that one of the things that I want to do now in my current gig is to help you find that great sweet spot for your career. And that's what we're all about. So let's get started in answering some questions. I think that that's what this is all about. I am a little sluggish today, so excuse me. Showed you a slide there briefly. This is from yesterday, excuse me, Wednesday's office hours. And I would encourage you to go back and look at this. It is a very instructive video, and I think there's somebody sent in a question a few minutes ago about recruiters and why is it not working. Go watch this video. It's 30 or 40 minutes. I try to make it as interesting as possible. And if you have any questions, you can always schedule time with me. There's a button at the bottom of my homepage, and I'll be happy to take a scheduled call from you and spend time answering your questions. Again, our mission here is to help you have the best possible career, the best career you're capable of having. Okay, so let's get back to the questions. John, on Wednesday you said that the recruiting process is broken. How can I protect myself as a job seeker? Well, okay, let's start off. Go back and watch that video from Wednesday. If you like it, fine. Please give me a like and follow it. Share it with your friends, because that's one way our work gets validated. And if you can do that for me, I really would appreciate it. If you see something I write or post, if you like it, please post that, or hit the button on YouTube and show us you like it, because that helps me get more visibility. Okay. The recruiting process is broken. Now, let me give you a just quick, hold on just a second. There we go. That was the clock reminding me that I had this obligation. So you're getting to see all the backroom stuff of this broadcast today. Okay. So let's talk about, why is it broken? Let me give you sort of a historical viewpoint. Between 1911 and 1917, there was a book written called the Scientific Principles of Management, and in chapter 3, he describes how you should recruit talent to your company, and it pretty much sounds like what we're doing today, except what we've done today to make it more dysfunctional is that we have dropped on top of this old, outdated, really process, all this new technology. And it's anytime you start with new technology, it is going to be rugged, and there are going to be areas where the software can be improved, and there's going to be areas where the processes can be enhanced. Okay, great. Now we started using ATS and applicant tracking systems in the late 90s when companies were looking for ways to streamline the operations, to speed up the applicant review, and to cut back on some of the cost of talent acquisition. And so it made sense. Let's use computers, and people came up and designed these scanner programs. And they're not perfect, but they really provided a great efficiency for a lot of big companies, especially those that were getting hundreds and hundreds of resumes every week. Thank you, and excuse me. Uh, and so that's at its core. You have new technology being dumped on top of an old system that nobody's bothered to change. Why? Because they make too much money. The outside firms make too much money doing it. Why do they want to change something that they understand and know how to manipulate? So that's one of the reasons that the system is broken. The other reason is that applicants aren't very good at interviewing, and employers aren't very good at interviewing. And nobody wants to stop and take some courses. Nobody thinks it's important enough to brief your teams and have the teams coordinated about who's going to ask what questions and what issues we're going to focus on and what we're going to be looking for. That almost never happens on interview teams. And so it's, some people who are on the interview team in one of the most important searches I did for this organization, a CEO search, and I think about 40 or 50% of the interview team members in one of the interviews we did with the candidate who flew in on a Thursday and interviewed all day Friday, about 40% of the people interviewing him had not even seen his resume. Not even seen his resume. HR had just not gotten around to it. And so consequently, they didn't really know what questions they should ask. And a couple of times you heard some questions that, if not illegal, they were close to jumping up and down on the law, and it certainly got the candidate's attention. So when you do that, you're also putting your worst foot forward for the candidate, because if he's a top candidate, he's not going to work for an organization that's kind of a bum, what. So that's another reason that it's broken, is that it's just not an important, serious part of our overall operational process. I mean, we're busy operating, we're busy making big decisions, but the most important thing you do as a senior leader is hire better people. You hire the best people. And if you don't think that was important, Jack Welch, after he came to learn to appreciate the value of HR, and his guy Tom Hanratty. And that's when GE really took off into its legendary growth and its legendary performance. It was one of the best run companies in the 80s and the 90s, and was one of the most profitable. And it was the gold standard of leadership at that time. Now, things change and leadership evolves, and there are a lot of people that go back and look at his style compared to what works today and say, oh, he was a terrible leader. No, he wasn't. At the time he was in place there, he was one of the best that ever was. And so, so that, if your CEO doesn't hold up recruiting as an essential gateway to get the best people in the organization, that process is broken. If you stand up at a conference and you're a new CEO and you say, our people are our most important asset, and somebody in the back of the room goes, and, it happened to be a room at the old Hilton in Chicago that everybody heard exactly what the guy said. And the CEO was really embarrassed and moved on very quickly. He was new. In his defense, he was very new and didn't realize what a mess he had. But that's kind of a rambling answer on why the recruiting process is broken. It's broken because we have technology on an old-fashioned process, an old-fashioned function that needs to be updated. It needs to be we need to sit down as an industry and say, okay, what do we need to do? What questions do we need to be asking? What systems do we need to put in place? How are we going to communicate better with the applicants? All that kind of stuff. Okay, number 2. I hear that some companies are dissatisfied with their ATS, the candidates that their ATS selects. They don't think they're getting the best. Are companies going to stop using ATS? This comes from Neil in Dallas. No. Anytime you start with new technology, the first iterations are not going to be the best they should be, but it's just the natural process of evolution and improvement. They are getting much, much better. But I will tell you the numbers are still pretty discouraging if you are applying for a job online. Exclusively online, your odds are at a minimum 150 to 1. Okay, that's just, there's a lot of competition for the jobs, and I think there's a question about that. We'll get to that in just a minute. However, they're not going to stop ATS. They're revising those systems, and I hope the bigger companies. A lot of times they don't go back in and add the latest greatest software when it comes out. Like, you can go back into some hospitals and still find Windows NT running. Oh, I'm sorry. That's what the big expensive big expensive um, medical record system runs on. That's how crazy that industry is. Anyway, that's called Epic. But anyway, they're not there. There's improvements being made. It's getting better. The scanners that are looking at LinkedIn profiles are really pretty impressive. But a lot of it depends on the quality of the algorithm. So anyway, they're not going away, and they will be used with increasing frequency going forward, because management sees that as a way to get rid of researchers, get rid of people managing paper, and automating the front end process of recruiting. That is going to be a big deal. That's a big deal. In yesterday's Career Live, we had about a 4-minute interview replay with Eric Schmidt talking about the latest developments in AI. And if you don't think it's going to affect you, his comment is it's underhyped and it's going to be here sooner, less than 5 years. So that was something that got people's attention, that's for sure. Anyway, Neil and Dallas, I hope that helped you with your question. Okay, let's see. Abigail from Appleton, Wisconsin has come to the house. Thank you, Abigail. I have more than 15 years experience. A recruiter told me that I should cut my resume from 3 to 1 page. He said that was the new industry standard. What is your opinion? Well, Abigail, let me ask you a few questions. Number one, where do you hang out in the food chain in the organization? Are you an executive? Are you a senior manager? Are you just a manager? Are you a department? Are you a department director or a department manager? A lot of it depends on kind of where you are. And if you have less than 4 or 5 years experience, yes, a 1-page resume is appropriate. Okay. However, if you've been in business for 15 years and you've got some good accomplishments, okay, don't forget that, and that you've had 3 or 4 moves, and you explain all that, you can't get it in 1 page, and that's just craziness. That's just garbage that somebody reads, and that's a recruiter, and then they start telling everybody, trying to add value to their search leadership, and they start giving people out of date BS, ridiculous, stupid information. A 1-page interview like this is fine if you're right out of college and you don't really have a lot of practical work experience. Good luck with finding a job. But it is. But as you grow and you get past 5 or 6 or 7 years, and you've got 2 or 3 or 4, quantifiable, impressive achievements for each job, then you can't limit it to 1 page. That's just some recruiter who's thinking about an hourly worker. I mean, or a manager that works deep down the organization and is almost, has the title of manager, but is almost a clerk or administrative person. Let's see. Why should I care whether a recruiter works contingency or retain as a structural, excuse me, why should I care whether a recruiter is retained or contingency? Since I'm not obligated to pay the fee. Bethany in Kansas City, I apologize for botching the question. Well, even though you're not going to be paying the fee 99 and 9/10% of the time on searches, and if you are being asked to pay fees on a regular basis, you need to find some better recruiters. Okay, let's talk about the fee structure. First of all, retained recruiters are at the top of the pyramid. Okay, they work as consultants, and they're point people. They are responsible for communication. Some companies call those people client-facing partners. The associates are next step down, and they do a lot of the initial screening and candidate sourcing, and then they also do the checking of the various websites, and they check to see that they're capturing their nets, capturing everything. So, that's so you've got that level in the a lot of the screening, even in a retained high end retained firm, is going to be done by junior staff members or people who aren't client facing partners. And they don't really say that. I mean, the client facing partner will see the candidate and talk to the candidate. Sometimes it's 2 or 3 weeks in advance, and sometimes it's on the same day they're being presented. And that's happened more than once. Okay, if you're talking to a contingency recruiter, that's all about run and gun. If they don't have an exclusive on the assignment, only way they get paid is if their candidate is submitted by the firm and the firm gets, their candidate selected. Then whatever you committed to charge, 25% of the base salary, 25% of salary plus bonuses for the first year, whatever it was. Okay, then that's key. But a contingency recruiter, as a general rule, is going to work anywhere from on a fee structure from 17 to 25 to 30% of the applicant's first year cash contribution. And so that, they're working very fast, because if they know about the search and they have some people for it, you can bet that other recruiters that are very aggressive in the industry are going to get the same information. So if you don't have an exclusive, that's why recruiters move really, really fast. They're really quick to get your resume. Why? Because once they get your resume in, it gets time-stamped, and they own your candidacy now. In other words, they're going to get paid if you accept the job. They may screen you once. I've seen recruiters submit candidates with just notes scrawled over their cover letter and their resume. That was what got submitted. And why was that? Because they were trying to get they're trying to get their name on that applicant before anybody else does. If they do, if the person's hired, then they get their money. If they don't do that and the person's hired, they lose out. So, that's one reason. So what's the implication for you? If you're dealing with a contingency recruiter and it's a real competitive search and they're really trying to move this fast so that they have a chance to, when the phone rings again, to respond, to keep things moving. They've got a contingency recruiter is an eat what you sell position. You can't just do one and step back and admire yourself. You got to have 10 or 15 searches going all the time so you can keep closing deals. Some firms have 2 partners assigned to each other, kind of like real estate agents, and one person is making calls and looking for candidates and looking for new clients on the phone in the morning, in the afternoon. The person may be on the phone looking for new clients, maybe out visiting some local people who might be able to turn up new business. And, and then after lunch, they flip positions and responsibilities. And that contingency firms work like that a lot. A contingency firm is probably a little bit closer to a real estate agency with some significant changes or differences. But as a general rule, you want to be dealing with a retained recruiter because they're going to give you more information. Why? Because they own the search. They have an exclusive agreement with the client. And even if somebody comes along and has the best qualified candidate, they still have to go through the retained recruiter. The retained recruiter is going to get the money for the search, and retained recruiters rarely do splits with other contingency recruiters. And what is a split? A split is if I come in and say, I've got the perfect candidate, you need to talk to my guy. And the recruiter with the retained firm says, okay, we want to take good care of our client. And so now they place the person. The fee may be, gosh, retained firms charge a lot. Say it's $100,000. Well, some contingency recruiters, if they have a great candidate, they're going to want to split 50-50. As a retained recruiter, you're going to do most of the work, but the contingency recruiter has the advantage of having the best applicant, and you submit it on their part, so you can keep the search going. You can keep at least half the fee. So that's what a split is. They're very common in physician recruiting. I hated them. Okay, are there questions I can ask to help me avoid making a couple of bad decisions regarding the job? And that's Ruth from Arlington, Texas. Thank you, Ruth. Appreciate you being in the house today. Are there questions you can ask? Okay, when you go in, it really depends on the job, okay? If there's been a lot of turnover, try to get to the bottom of that. Ask several team members, why have there been such turnover? Try to get as much definitive information. Now, when you're interviewing lower level people, be nice and try to build trust, because if they like you and trust you, they're going to be more inclined to share information with you that they might not otherwise share to somebody else. They may even share information with you that they're not even going to share with their boss. Okay, so you want to be kind, and but you want to try to extract information out of them to find out what's going on within the organization. But at a minimum, you want to know if there's been a lot of turnover in this department or in this division or in this job. Has there been turnover in the larger division? What's the turnover rate for the health system, to the hospital, or the manufacturing company? What's the turnover in the executive branch? Is there a lot of coming and going? Why? You got to know all these things, because sometimes everything can look good on the surface, and then right below the surface it can be one dysfunctional hot mess. So you want to ask the tough questions, and some of them are, what's the turnover? How are you doing on finances? Do you have plenty of cash on hand? Are you worried about that? What are the big short-term challenges this organization is going to face? You can push a little bit further and say, why do you stay here? Why do you work here? How long have you been here? Why do you stay here? Why do some people leave? Something like that. Those can be helpful questions, but you're trying to look for anomalies in the corporate culture, and turnover rate, and how they treat their employees, and morale and satisfaction. Or you want to look at all those scores, and because that'll tell you a lot about the organization. Okay. I need to update my resume, but I cannot afford an expensive resume writer. Can you give me some guidance? Yes, we can. First of all, go to our webpage, johngself.com. Click the little red button on the right-hand side. It'll take you to our course page, and I believe there's a free downloadable resume guide for you on that page, and knock yourself out. Yes, you can. A resume writer is good in the sense that they can interview you, and theoretically, they're going to listen and pick up stuff about you that you might not ordinarily hear, because we're not geared to brag about ourselves. So a third party asking you questions about who you are, what you're good at, that can be very, very helpful and help you build satisfaction and security and a lot of confidence. So that's where they play. Design is of no consequence anymore. You don't want it to look bad. You don't want to have typos and anything like that. But the computers that screen these things, they don't care what they look like. They're looking for certain keywords and phrases, and they're looking for the quality of what's on the resume in terms of successes. Now, I think that you have to, when you're in this process, it can take a lot of time, and so I would not get trapped with somebody else's definition of how long a resume should be. And I always say it should be commensurate for the number of years of experience. You're, capturing your most important, significant accomplishments over however many it is. I hope that makes some sense. Let's see. Cecilia from Providence, I'm assuming Rhode Island. I need to update nope, we just got that one. Sorry. They didn't flip that forward for me. Apologize. It's my fault. Nobody else's. A former boss told me you were one of the best recruiters he'd ever worked with. Who is your former boss? I need to send him money for saying such a kind, nice thing about me. I've never heard that. That's interesting. That's really interesting. Thank you very much. You were one of the best. I'm going to say that again because that really does sound good. My former boss told me you were one of the best recruiters he'd ever worked with. Why did you quit before you were ready to stop working? And what are you doing now? Whit from Chicago. Whit, I think I know who you are, and I think I know that client, and I'm very, very, very thankful and very appreciative. I was good as a recruiter because I loved what I was doing. Okay, I was passionate about it. I've never really had a job that I was not passionate about, that I didn't care about. Now, I've had a bunch of bosses, unfortunately, that were jerks. They'd come in the building and the jerk alarms would start going off. But I was always pretty passionate about what I did, and I worked for myself. So if you got a bad boss that doesn't take care of you, and you're working for yourself, just look in the mirror in the morning. Enough of that silliness. Let's get back. Why did you quit? Well, I'd been traveling really a lot since the mid 1970s. I told a group of kids at the Michigan Graduate School of Management, the healthcare division, that I um, I remember when they used to shake the martinis in the old Braniff International Airlines, and this kid raised his hand. He said, "Mr. Self, what's Braniff? I've never heard of them before." And I said, "It's an airline that went out of business twice before you were born." So I traveled a lot. I was in the 70s. It was extensive travel, probably a quarter of a million miles a year. And then I slowed down a little bit and did more regional travel. A lot of Southwest Airlines, a lot of the commuter flights into the secondary markets from Houston, and so still a lot of travel. Being away from home a lot was not. I think it took a toll on my kids, and I regret that. But sometimes the job you have and the job that's going to pay you the most money may not always be the best for you in terms of work-life balance. But when you have kids in school and you're trying to buy a house, well, you make trade-offs, and they're not always the right ones. With So the other thing I think that really kind of convinced me that it was time to hang it up. Clients begin to retire, okay, and you work years to build those clients up, and then when they start to retire, you try to bring in younger blood, younger clients. But at this point in time, the market was really beginning to change, and dramatically. And I was not really thrilled with some of those changes. I didn't think they were going to be in the best interest of candidates or even the applicants. And I thought that I thought that it was getting to be too much about the money and the fees and not enough about the answer, the solution. Remember, George Clooney said he couldn't find a job until he realized that he was the answer to their problems. Well, I sort of started looking at that, and I said, we're we're not hiring the best people for the job because we're not looking at it the right way. We are not sitting there saying this is the best person for the job. We gave 3-year placement guarantees. So when we said that this is the best person for the job, we had done our homework. And in 27 years, I never had a mishire at the CEO level. So I really enjoyed the work. I'm very appreciative again of the compliment, that very generous compliment. And I would say at the end, I think we need to be very careful in this day and age of healthcare, where we're flooded with private equity and some other agents of of profits over patients. But anyway, I just decided, I was aware of some health issues. It was nothing that took me off the road for any length of time, but I was aware of those health issues and ended up in 2022 having open heart surgery. So I quit. And I really stopped full time search in 2019, and I really had scaled back considerably since 2017. So I kind of moved out of it gradually, and I'm enjoying what I do now. I'm a career coach. I'm based in Tyler, Texas, right outside of Dallas, about an hour and 20 minutes. And so you really, I've had a great career, and I just thought it was time to stop. And today it was interesting. I'd always liked getting out and seeing the people, but I think, I'm waxing a little bit nostalgic here, but when I stopped traveling, I thought the door closed. I mean, I didn't close, it slammed shut. And I have not been on a plane since 2017. And that is a record for me. That is a world record for me. And quite frankly, my wife wants to start doing some travel. And I'm not, I just can't get excited about it. And she's told me to get my passport updated, and I'm going to have to do that, even though I'm not really sure I want to get on a plane and fly 12 hours someplace and run the risk of encountering increasing problems with clear air turbulence, which is an issue that's going to continue to accelerate. So, but I'm very happy here in Tyler, coaching people and doing these live streams. And one of these days, if I keep practicing, maybe I'll get pretty good at it. Why is it taking so long to find a management job when the market people say that hiring is still brisk? That's David in Santa Barbara, California. Let's see. David, well, what's happened here is that the management and executive jobs have contracted, and there's more people looking for jobs in that segment than there are roles. And so if it's not uncommon to be one of two, three, or four or 500 people applying for one job. So that's, I think, kind of why there is an imbalance, and the imbalance is in the management executive level, and that is probably not going to change throughout the 4 quarters of 2025. Okay, it won't. We're still going to be dealing with this in 2025. Listen, we're running out of time today. I really appreciate you being here. This was a crazy morning, and I was a little distracted. So I will kind of drink more tea earlier in the day. So next week we'll be back here answering your questions, and we'll be back on Tuesday and Wednesday of next week with Lunch and Learn at 11:30 a.m. Central Time. And then at 4 o'clock in the afternoon Wednesday, we have our flagship show, Office Hours. And we've had some really good content lately, so I hope you'll go back and look at it. Anytime you see any of our stuff and you have a chance to like it and refer it to other people, please do. We really would appreciate your help. I'm John Self in Tyler, Texas, answering your questions and helping you make your career the best it can be. Thanks so much for being with us today.